All right, I'm only gonna choose, there are a lot of stupid ones in here. I'll choose the stupid ones too, but we'll just go in order. It's the one with the beard filter. I put that one on Drea all the time. But I'm doing that because in 2020, when COVID hit, I promised myself that I would, as you can see, I can barely grow a beard. So I promised myself, because no shave November was never enough time for me. So I was like, all right, I'll do no shave until the vaccine comes out. And all I grew was a neck beard, nothing up here. I'll have to send you a picture of what that looks like.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. Well, she has a milk protein allergy right now. So the moment that we get the thumbs up that she's past that, if she does, God willing, that day, I don't see why not. Yeah, I don't see why not. It's so stupid. These next couple are from my best friend Daniel, so I'll put him on blast. There's only one way to find out, bro. Ask your wife. My best friend obviously really likes me. Yeah, we'll have to do more mobility training stuff. So walking through mobility training. The easiest way to think about it is starting with your toes, to be honest. A lot of us lack mobility from our feet first. So a lot of the issues that we're having in a squat or any other movements come from the feet. So when you analyze yourself from a biomechanics standpoint or mobility wise, start from the bottom up, because it's just a kinetic chain. So generally, rule of thumb I like to use is a lot of times if there's knee pain, it tends to stem from something below it, not above it. And again, that's just a generalization. One thing I like to say in terms of mobility is try not to get in such a strict mobility routine. There's certain things that you can always keep, but always keep some of your mobility time on audible. So I don't necessarily know what I'm going to need to foam roll or to tighten or lengthen as I'm walking into a training session until I start doing my warm-up sets, and I can feel that this is tight or that is tight. Reason being is because we may have been sitting in a plane, we may have been sleeping on our stomach, we may have fallen asleep on the recliner feeding Ava. Like, so everything is very different. But in short, yeah, Dan, we'll have to start doing some mobility stuff. I can't do it in a Speedo though. I only pose, we'll pose, we'll do some posing in a Speedo. Oh, mobility and posing. A lot of people's posing is bad because of shoulder mobility is the most glaring one, but back double bicep, for example, is getting your wrist behind your elbow, getting your elbow high, letting those lats come out. A lot of that comes from mobility. And the bigger the muscle doesn't mean if there's a huge guy, they're not mobile or they can't stretch. People who work on mobility and people who stretch are flexible. People who don't aren't. Simple as that. I have my favorites, and I've had several exercise splits, and it's dependent with the goal that you have in mind and the physique you have in mind. When I write an exercise split for someone, if they have aesthetic goals or appearance goals, the first thing I'm looking at is their progress pictures, because I need to see what's a strong point and what's a weak point. So I need to see what their strengths and weaknesses are, right? Someone who has a weaker back or weaker legs is going to have a different training split than someone who have gifted legs, right? Or genetically blessed legs, or they're hyper growers, meaning they grow quickly in time just through resistance training. So for example, an extreme example is Phil Heath. When you watch Phil Heath, who's 7-time Mr. Olympia, play basketball before he started bodybuilding, he had 18, 19-inch arms. He probably wouldn't need to train arms one arm day plus biceps after back and triceps after chest. His arms would be out of proportion for his physique. So when you develop a training split, you got to look at which tire needs the most air. And you develop it based on that. You develop it around your higher carb days or after your refeed days. So there's a lot that goes into a training split. Now, in short, my favorite training split is going to be a quote unquote bro split, or like Fuad Abiyad likes to say, a pro split, which I agree with, because most pros do not do push-pull legs. I think beginners should start with a full body, then they should branch off into upper body, lower body, then they should branch off into push-pull legs, and then from there, once you start developing imbalances in your physique, for example, push-pull legs, you're going to, someone who has skinnier limbs, like skinnier legs and skinnier arms, is going to be trunk heavy and limb lanky. They're not gonna fill their limbs out. So they're gonna need to do something like push-pull arms, or push-pull legs arms, right? But from there, I would branch out into your typical back day, your typical chest day. And again, I'm speaking in terms of someone who has appearance goals. Workout splits are different based on the sport you're doing. For example, if you're doing CrossFit, it's gonna be completely different. You better not be doing that stuff because it's not an appearance-based sport. If you're a marathon runner, you're gonna have your recovery runs. You're gonna have like your long mile Saturday runs. If you're a power lifter, you're going to have your SBD days. Like there's just so many different training splits based on the sport you're doing. So it's changed a lot for me the past 2 years or so since I've started doing less in-person training, and the coaching, major aesthetics coaching, has grown so much. But when I went private in 2015 and branched off on my own and I got out of the corporate world, I worked corporate fitness. I was the fitness guy for Intelsat and Deloitte and all these your typical corporate companies. And then I worked part-time for US Fitness Holdings, which is your Crunch Fitness, Sport and Health, One Lifes. But I only worked part-time with them. They actually let me do that. In short, in the beginning of going private, I would wake up anywhere between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. because I was prepping for shows. So I'd do cardio, and then I'd have my typically first client at 5 or 6 a.m. And then I'd have 8 hours of work. So I'd either work from 7 to 3 or 11 to 7. And then after I got out of work, I'd go train and I'd be back home at around 11 p.m. So we're talking there, I got very used to 3 to 4 hours of sleep, and that for a fact took years off my life. I don't recommend doing that, but I knew it was something I had to do to be able to have you walking by my side right now on a Saturday morning, doing whatever the hell we want to do. So I knew it was a temporary sprint that I had to do. I pretty much sprinted from 2015 to 2018, 2019. Wow. So that's how many hours of sleep. Now, I would always have one day where I slept 10 or 12 hours. Now I get anywhere between, I'd say between 5 and 7 on a weekday. And then on the weekends, I'd get between 6 and 8 right now. And Ava's a good sleeper. But people always ask me, are you getting any sleep with Ava? But the time I got the least amount of sleep was from 2015 to 2019. Waking up to feed my daughter a bottle was nothing for me. It would have been if I wasn't doing that stuff earlier, but it was something I already knew how to do. But what would I recommend? I personally, if you're training, recommend 8 to 10 hours of sleep a day if you can. If I wasn't running a business and I didn't have an 8-month-old, I would be getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep if I'm trying to make my physique optimal.